Well, Halloween's just getting closer and closer. It's getting very exciting. Hi Tarot fans, welcome to another edition of Blue Sicx Tarot. I'm your host Blue Sicx. Thanks very much for watching. If you're interested in this video and you seem to enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up, subscription, and you can even follow me on the social medias. Now in today's video we'll be doing a review of a really cool deck, Santa Muerte. Now, roll on to the intro. Okay, so first we'll start off by the fact of pointing out it's quite a thick box, nice sturdy case, so nice thick card here. The card on the front is actually the death card. Not too surprising, obviously. So you've got, I do apologise if I've pronounced this incorrectly, but Santa Muerte Tarot. And it's got here the Book of the Dead. So not the Necronomicon, but more of Day of the Dead from Mexico. So it's done by the Scarabino, of course. And people involved in that, once again, I'm bad at pronouncing names. So that's the size of it. So we've got so it's 5 inches by just short of 3.5 inches, and it's about 2 inches. And it's about 2 inches thick here. So got nice solid inner case as well. Yeah, I'll take the cards out for something, or she'll jump into cards in a second. You've got a nice thick book that's it kind of gets wedged in there, so be careful when you do remove the book, but the book is never loose. And the book has sorry, try that again. So the book has its different languages, of course, and it has this nice description there. Obviously you've got the full there, so you've got your nice descriptions, the cards here, and they don't really show any spreads, it just goes straight in, although I will quickly jump ahead just to make sure it doesn't have anything there, because I might have gotten that wrong. And no one likes to look wrong on the internet, do they? The answer for that would be no. Come on, you're here somewhere, probably. No, just go straight on to other languages. But now we'll move on to the deck itself. So just have a quick look at the back. So that's a really cool kind of pattern there for the back. And now we'll take a quick look at the majors. So with this bit I'm just going to show 5 of the majors, because that way, and then we can just do a flick through in another video. So the selected 5 is the Fool here, and I always enjoy the Fool. He is they are my favourite card. Love the sombrero there. I just love their look, and the fact they've come out the grave and they've got the nice suitcase and an anchor and all other odds and sods around, just to kind of go, right, I'm ready for my journey. I don't know what's in front of me, but here we go. And there you've got the little butterfly of the guidance, which is cool, instead of like the little dog there. So next card up, we've got the Empress. Now she looks quite nice and regal there, in a flower flower throne there. Now I don't know much about Mexican culture or any of their legends or theories and stuff in regards to Day of the Dead. I know that it's a celebration. I know it's the equivalent of Halloween. That's all I really know. So obviously if there's obvious stuff for you guys that I don't really mention or notice, my apologies. It's just not really a thing I notice. It's not really part of my culture. It's not really kind of my culture. The closest we get is Spain, obviously, because obviously geography. But yeah, so we've got nice sunflowers there at the bottom, and these are just nice and bright colours. And now, for anyone asks, I have not watched Coco or Book of Life yet. I still plan to, but I've not watched those 2 films. Next we've got the Hanged Man. Now I think this Hanged Man looks amazing, just on the idea of his head not even being connected to his rest of his body. But I've always thought that's always been one of my favourite cards in the entire deck, really. It looks really cool. Always makes me smile just because of the basic concept here. So he's kind of like in a pool of water here. I'm not quite sure what that is, but just the decoration, just the aesthetics of it looks really good. So next we've got the Devil, and this one's quite bright and does look really nice, very artistic. Now the artwork, I'm not sure, I believe it's mostly done on the computer generated rather than hand drawn, but there are some pieces that look really good. Well, there's some pieces that look like they've been hand drawn. It's quite hard to tell, but that one's pretty good. And so last off we'll end with the World, and I like the fact she's got the scythe as well, even though it's the completion of a journey rather than a change. She's still got the scythe. It's on the globe, a nice hourglass, and you've got the 4 elements above her as well, because these colours are representative of the miners, which we'll see later. But it's very, once considering the theme, it's a very bright card and it's very nice. The card stock itself is quite good. It's a little thicker than their standard, and it's gloss, as you can tell by its reflection. But so it's gloss, and the cardstock is a little bit thicker than its standard, but because it's gloss, it's easier to kind of spread and shuffle. So now we're going to move on to the pips. Sorry about that. I probably had some of you worried when I said pips. Yeah, so we're going to be looking at the aces. So I'm going to start with the Ace of Cups, and this is kind of how all the aces are themed throughout the deck. So a lot of the cups will tend to have a nice dark blue. It has a sense of misery because it's cloudy and rainy, but there is that sense of love and emotion. Despite the fact it's got the hearts as eyes, it does have their kind of themes of compassion and love within them. And even though the card looks bleak, the meaning itself is quite bright. Now with the swords, very bright, but then it's kind of the opposite really of the cups, because they're quite bright, but then they're depicting a lot of more conflict and strife, because obviously they're the swords. But the designs of them are really nice in the fact they're in the same form of playing cards, which is always good. So you've got wands here, and the wands are depicted in occasion as either flowers or rods or poles or what have you, whichever you prefer to call them. And there is a kind of flower aesthetic, and I mean, this does make me want to go to see a Day of the Dead festival in Mexico, and just to kind of see the bright colours and all the candy skulls I think they have as well. Once again, I'm from England, we don't quite know a lot of the Mexican traditions that those of you in the US would. And then we've got the pentacles, and a lot of them, once again, very heavy on the deep green, and a lot of them do have the kind of moss textures there as well, because obviously for the earth element, and just because it just fits really well with the idea of skulls, bodies being in the earth and the earth being around the skulls. It's kind of cool, and it's cool in a morbid kind of way, but then we are talking about Day of the Dead. So I'm going to move on to the top 5, to some of my favourite miners, and we'll see how they look. Now, despite a lot of other decks, this deck, I feel that the miners make this deck. Now, I'll start off with the cups, and the 2 of cups is usually representative like a partnership, and as a more of a romantic couple, rather than just like the lovers, which is sometimes just about general partnership. But this one is about like emotional partnership, so either best friends or a relationship, or a romantic relationship rather. And I think the style of this highlights it just perfectly in the concept of this one is pouring water from their head into the head of this one. They're giving themselves to this one, and this would make a great poster tattoo. I love this card. It is my favourite card throughout this deck. I just think this is an amazing card, and just sums up what the card means without having to look too much into it. Because even with the standard riders, you kind of have to look and kind of read into the image. This image just gives it off. The fact they're just holding each other and one's giving it the other, and it's just really beautiful. And as I said before, contrast, this is very harsh, and this just makes me think of Hellraiser. I mean, let's be fair, if any of you have seen Hellraiser, you'd probably be thinking the same. So I think this one does look just cool and just badass, really. It just looks really cool, horrific. If this was like the monster in a film, I would watch this film hands down. Even if it's a budget film, I'd watch it. But then I do have Puppet Master 1, 2 and 3 on DVD, so what do I know about films? So next we have the Two of Wands, and the reason I like this is because they've got the concept of the crossroads, but instead it's, you know, a stereotypical, a Mexican style bandit. Got the sombrero covering the mask, covering his face, all sorts. And I like this just because it, once again, it looks really cool, and the red doesn't feel too overused. It's the dominant colour here, obviously, but it doesn't feel too overused, and you don't feel like you're missing anything, that you're missing any detail in this one. And we go to the Pentacles now. I chose this one because this was one of the more interesting ones art-wise. Some of the others aren't. Some of the other Pentacles aren't as have more detail or more things going on, but they just don't look as visually interesting to me. But then I said that's more of a personal thing, really. But I do like this just because it's this one similar to the Wands. It's very deep. There's this the dominant colour is green. Even these other two, there's enough variety in the picture to not just mainly focus on this, whilst these two mainly have their dominant colour of either green or red, and there's the details in the vines, and this isn't necessarily an easy card to read. This deck itself is a standard style of deck. There'll be some cards that will be harder to read than others, but it's not a difficult deck on its own. But this is kind of a sort of some of the depths of detail you'll get in some of the artwork in this deck. And now we're just going to move on to the court cards. Right, so as you can see here, I've put them in order of rank, air quotes, rather than suit. So I'll start with the page. So the page I chose was the Page of Wands. I like the Page of Wands because they're like the newsbringer. They've got their little piece of information here, and they're either sending you a message, or that's the like indication that they're trying to learn something, and that's the thing they're trying to learn. And they're kind of in a very early stage of it because they're still on a swing, so they're still learning whilst still enjoying their own time. So they're not necessarily fully committed to this thing because they're still learning about it. And I like that, and I like the fact that I mean, it's throughout this deck, throughout these, where you've still got their primary colour, but it's so muted and it just kind of blends into the background really well. Now, I had to go for the Knight of Swords here. I don't think I need to explain why. Sword swallowing is amazing. It's really cool. And what I like about this one is the fact it's completely pointless. He's got his little gap in his jaw there, and he has no throat. He doesn't... That's not impressive for a skeleton to swallow a sword. And that's why I like this. That's why I love this card. It just makes me smile every time I see it. It's like, hey, check how risky and daring I am, even though this will have no effect on me whatsoever. So, and now move on to the Queen of Cups. Once again, I like this one because it has that Catholic iconography here with the burning heart. I always forget what this thing is called. My apologies for that. But I always find it interesting where I see Christian iconography in a thing that Christianity says is bad. So I always find that quite interesting and also amusing. But I find lots of things funny. I've got a bad sense of humour. So, and then we got the King of Pentacles here, who's obviously obviously like a tradesman. I wouldn't necessarily like a businessman, but he looks like he's more into trade rather than like production or manufacturing. But yeah, so this looks like a guy who like might have a farm or something like that. He's a tradesman. He's in trading rather than in rather than like production. But yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. I always like this one. You said it has a kind of business sort of feel to it, and I just like sombreros. Sombreros are cool. Not as cool as fezzes. Fezzes are cool. Anyway, so this has been the review for the for this deck. It's been I'll be doing like a flick through next week or later on in the week, just so you can see the entire deck. This is to say you don't necessarily have to sit through every card. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, like, share and subscribe, and hit that bell notification. The intro and outro music was Tetris Linear Groove, available on Overclocked Remix. Give that website a look, great stuff on there. And if you also like some of my other bits, you can check out my videos, and you can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Tumblr at Sicx Tarot. I'll see you again soon. Thanks again for watching.